Welcome to the Ride This Out podcast, where we talk about how to improve your mental health and strengthen your connection to nature and your community, all through one simple solution: the bicycle. My name is Zach Golding, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and mental health therapist. I'll be your host as we discuss the power of pedaling. Welcome into this week's session. I talk with Carol Long. I've met Carol a few times on some different group rides in our community. Carol is one of the happiest, most joyful people you'll ever meet. You'll hear that as she tells her story and talks. She just has an infectious laugh. She loves talking about bikes and advocacy work and everything that has to do with strengthening your communities and connecting with them. So I thought it'd be really fun to get her perspective. I love how she talks about being interested in your neighboring cities, right? And how they're all connected in one community and how it's so beneficial to have that bike infrastructure throughout all the different cities to build a big community wherever you're at. So it was a really fun conversation with Carol. I hope you enjoy it. I know that you'll get some good stuff out of it. Share it with other people that you might find be interested in cargo biking or just bicycle advocacy work. And whatever platform you're listening to this on, please do me a big favor. And if you could just like this, the show, the episode, give it a review. It helps boost it up in the different ratings so people can find it and people can hear these wonderful stories of how bicycle riding can improve their mental health and connecting with others around them. So again, thanks again for the support. Thanks for listening, and enjoy this week's session with Carol. All right, Carol, thanks again for joining me on the podcast. I'll just ask you to start off by introducing yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do, a little bit about your family, just kind of those good things there. So go ahead.
Hey, my name's Carol Long, and I ride a Madsen cycle. It's this bright red ladybug. Well, I made it look like a ladybug. Everyone's like, "Oh, there's the ladybug bike." Everyone sends me pictures when they see it, and they can stop to take pictures. Like, "Oh, I spotted you," which is really cool. I think I like to think that it makes people happy. My family, I have a 5-year-old son and my husband, and I'm from Southern California. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. Kind of moved around a bit, and now I've landed here in Utah, and we've been here for about 4 years. And I got into biking because growing up, there wasn't really such a thing as oh, when you turn 16, you get a car. That just wasn't it. Not many people could have, I don't think any of my friends owned a car, and only a handful knew how to drive one. So in high school, it was mostly we'd walk, we'd take the bus. It wasn't uncommon for my friends and I to hey, let's go take the bus to this thing and go have fun over there. Or, maybe a parent would carpool us, that kind of thing. So it wasn't until my early 20s that I tried to learn. And I learned very quickly that it wasn't for me, for a lot of different reasons. I just didn't feel confident as a driver. It didn't feel safe. I had a hard time distinguishing where I was on the road. I still mix my left and right. It's just, and the anxiety I would have from driving, I would seize up. My whole body, I'd have to relax on the couch for a long time to recover just from driving for a little bit. So it's never been something I've been interested in. I only wanted to learn because, oh, I'm an adult now. I'm supposed to know how to drive a car. But I realized that I didn't need to. In college, I still rode my bike to multiple jobs, rode my bike to functions. If I really needed a ride somewhere, it wasn't hard for me to find one because, college days, you got plenty of friends with cars. But when we moved here, when I was pregnant with my son, am I going am I going off track of what you asked
No,
me?
you're doing great, Carol. Keep it up. Doing great.
So when I was pregnant with my son, it was the first time since learning how to ride a bike that I couldn't ride a bike because I was so nauseous. I couldn't stay upright. And wasn't until he was almost like 2 that I even attempted to ride again because I don't know if you could pick up on it, but I have anxiety. um, and my anxiety kept me back a lot from getting back on. I was like, how am I going to travel around safely with my son? How am I going to, like, what's the best way to get him around? Is he too young? Like, or are the streets safe enough? Do I know the right ways to go? Like, all of this was keeping me back. And even when I attempted it, I got like a used trailer, and that was no good because it would unhook from my bike, and that was a whole fiasco. Fortunately, all ended well, but that turned me off even more. Like, oh, I can't even rely on a trailer. Um, but I went around. So we tried a trailer for a little bit, and I felt like it felt good to get back on a bike again. I felt like that freedom and that fresh air, but I still didn't know how to um, how to get around in a way that I felt confident. And I did feel a little lonely in the beginning because I didn't see like a lot of moms um, on bikes with kids. I saw a few, which is how I got here. Um, but I feel over the last few years, there's like that cargo bike boom is a real thing. Like I've seen it with my own eyes. And one of my friends, she had a Madsen, and she asked if I wanted to test ride it. I test rode it with my son in the back, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm cutting through the road like it's butter." Like
It's
there
so
wasn't the drag of a trailer. She also had a battery, which helped a lot, but a cover to keep the rain off of him. Like I test rode it during a rainy season. I was like, "Oh, what a dream! This is amazing." And it was also that same friend whose husband was really involved in Bike Walk Provo. And I started like attending some of their events and, really getting some benefits from that community and like learning from them. And I think what really, um, so two things that really changed my life was discovering Bike Walk Provo. I mean, my friend is the one who kind of like unintentionally orchestrated this, but so she's very important. But being introduced to Bike Walk Provo, did like a bike tour with them, and that just opened up my world because the bike tour shows you where the bike infrastructure is, and like they would stop and tell us like, okay, at this intersection there is this problem, or at here we address this, and now a lot of people take this route instead. And like I never dreamed I would go past like 4 or 5 blocks past my neighborhood. I just felt like it wasn't safe enough. But riding with a group who were confident and seasoned, and they knew what they were talking about, they knew the safe routes, it gave me the confidence I needed to go past a neighborhood or two. And then my friend introducing me to her bike, I was like, you know what? I need this bike. And she told me, like, hey, even if you buy a used one, or if you need to borrow some money to get a used one or a new one, I promise it'll change your life. I feel like this will really help you. And I trusted her. And I'm so glad I did because for a whole year, I had my powder blue used Madsen cycle. I made like a blue canopy with rainbow streamers and like little cloud tassels, like cloud puffball looking tassels on the end. And it brought me so much joy. And I feel like it brought a lot of people happiness too. Like my idea was if I make, because there's this idea that if you make infrastructure that is beautiful, if you have public murals and things like that, it actually slows down driving or reduces aggressive driving. So I thought if I have art as my ride, hopefully people will give me more space and be slower around me. And so that was my idea about making it so pretty. um, but so it did change my life. I felt a lot more confident and safe with my son inside the bucket. Um, I've I rode a whole year in that used Madsen. I've gone down to Springville and been in parades and like taken my son everywhere I needed to go or not even just needed, but wanted to go. Because before then, we just walked and bussed everywhere, which was fine. But the bike really opened up our world for someone who can't, won't, and shouldn't drive. I feel like I'm just talking at you now.
No, that's I mean, I love the story of just how it became, for one, having someone help you kind of realize that, and then just as you have been writing. So, I'm curious, like, you mentioned the anxiety of driving, right? And then just, and with riding too, with on a bicycle, there can be some anxious moments. But how is it overall? Just riding, how does that help with your anxiety or cause it to go up, or just that in general?
So I feel like the way, because I know when I talk to other women or my friends, a lot of times they say they would love to go cargo biking with their kids, but they have so much fear and anxiety over it. And I totally understand it because I was there. And um, but that's what keeps them. The safety is what keeps them from doing it. And there's so many benefits, and they see those benefits in people who do, and they want them. But that fear, and it's very valid. But I tell them, well, how many people do you know have been in a car accident? Have you seen in a car accident? How many people do you know who have sustained injury or have died from car accident? And maybe like I don't know if there's many people in my circles who haven't been in a car accident. My brother, when I was little, he got hit by a car, um, and that was a really traumatic experience. He survived it, but then later he fell out of the window of a truck, and like the truck hit the back of his legs while like my stepdad ran around and like yanked him out from under it. So
Wow.
it's like there's all these things that we see and experience, and they're just in our culture as this is just part of doing business, of being in a society, and I'm not okay with it. And yeah, there's risks of being on a bike, but on a bike, I get to be immersed in my community. I get all these small dopamine hits from like greeting my neighbors, seeing something beautiful, getting that fresh air. It's like a natural antidepressant to just be out there, using your body. It's integrated into your life. That exercise is integrated into your life. It's not like I have to go to the gym or have to set aside time to work out. It's just a part of my life. I get to enjoy those benefits, and knowing that there's so many things that are risky in our life, but we get to choose which ones to partake in. And I feel like biking with my family is worth the risk. And the more people, the more women, the more children that are out on the streets, the more we signal to our cities that this is what we want. We want safe infrastructure for people to be able to do this with confidence. And that invites safety for others. Like if I didn't have those friends that I saw cargo biking with their kids before I got a cargo bike, um, it might have taken much longer for me to actually get on one. And so with me being out on my bike with my son and my nephews or my friends' kids when we're having our fun little trips, that adds safety. Um, that adds safety for other people who want to do the same thing. And so especially I feel like being not just being a woman and a mom, but like a person of color who probably doesn't have the ideal body type. I have like anxiety, I have like health issues and things like that. But being on a bike is like, it's just being on it is a form of advocacy saying you can do it too. And that it should be safe for people like me or people in a wheelchair or people on a scooter, on a skateboard, young, old, with children, without children. It should feel safe for them to use a mobility lane or use a multi-use lane or even take the road sometimes when we have to. The society we live in shouldn't make everyone have to pay such a steep price to participate in it by having a car, like making it a necessity to have and use a car. At least that's my feeling. Did I go too far off from?
No, no, Carol, you're doing awesome. I seriously, such good conversations. And so And that's the cool thing that how I've met you, is by being involved with Bike Walk Provo and going to different rides, and then, you venture all the way up here, up the big hill up here to come to Orem and do different things, and so I feel like, you as you've been involved with Bike Walk Provo, you're just involved with other communities and that advocacy work, and so that's really inspired us as well. My family, as we cargo bike a lot with our kids, and yeah, just to kind of put it out there of yeah, this is what we want, and there's other families that want it too, and that yeah, again, we kind of signal to them like, hey, let's all get out and ride and advocate for these safer streets. So tell me a little bit about that, like your advocacy work and just like, with the city and doing different things like that. How has that helped you feel a part of the community?
Um, so that is one of, again, like reiterating how beautiful it is when you're on a bike, you're more immersed in your community. You're going slow enough that you can see where the inequalities lie in the infrastructure or where things could be safer and that you would probably miss in a car. Like we know that when traffic engineers are designing streets and cities, they treat cars like liquid. They want them to flow as easily and smoothly as possible. Not all traffic engineers, I'm not saying all of them, but that's generally the way that is handled. But the way you travel on like mobility devices, on scooters, bikes, skateboards, the way you travel on those things, you you get, not only do you get to see things more slowly, you also get to enjoy them. I want to add that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I see a problem, we bring it up in our like Bike Walk Provo chat, like, hey, like anyone else? Anyone else notice this? Do you know if something's being done about this? Like I can call 311 or I can, mark it on, we have a GIS map where we put comments and complaints or like things we want to praise about different infrastructure things that we see around the city, which is really cool. But I feel like what I mostly do, I just talk about bikes. Because especially now that I have, so Madsen Cycles, Jared Madsen, he's very generously on his birthday had gifted me a new candy red battery powered Madsen. Like my old one was it was a classic pedal assisted pure mom power, but with the battery. Now I have this bike with the battery, and it's striking. And especially now that I decorated it to look like a ladybug, people
Yeah.
stop me all the time to talk about like my bike, and usually that does lead into the question of like, oh, I wish I wanted to do that. Like, how did you get into biking? Or it usually leads into those conversations. And I feel like having those conversations are like my main source of advocacy because I also homeschool. I never answered the question what I do. I feel like right now I'm a mother first. I'm at home, I homeschool. I'm also a doula. I used to be a massage therapist in California, but I feel like right now my main job is mother.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so so because I homeschool, I have this flexibility where I get to go where the day takes us. I get to explore our community. We learn a lot hands-on and just exploring. So I do get to have a lot of interactions with people. And I love talking about bikes. I really should start off by saying, how much time do you have when someone stops me? Because I can talk a lot about bikes, my own personal experience with how it's helped me. Um, it really did feel like a light bulb, like a switch went off when I got my bike. It was like in the springtime. I was also coming out of like seasonal depression at the time when I first got my first Madsen. And
Yeah.
it was like just again, the fresh air, the freedom, being in community, feeling like a sense of comfort and safety for my child in the back. Because he is like a little prince back there. Everyone's like, oh, look at him. Look at that sweet ride, that sweet seat back there. And yeah, it's like, look, he's got a cup holder. He's got blankets. He's got toys back there. He's got everything he needs back there in his bucket. Well, I'm over here doing all this hard work,
Yeah.
but it's enjoyable. It feels good.
Yeah, that's what
Oh yeah.
when we throw our boys on the back of our cargo bike and we're cruising around. Yeah, we have the cover over them too. We kind of laugh like, yeah, these little princes, like we're just delivering them around. But I think, it's either that or they sit in a car and they're like staring at a screen, and just completely oblivious to nature and the world around them. So it's just,
Yeah.
so much more alive and just being out in the community. I think that's the biggest benefit for the kids to be out riding with you too. We love it.
Yes, and it teaches them that this could be the normal, and that it's like, yeah, of course we get on our bike. Like when we're about to head out, my son's default is like put on his helmet, even if
Mhm.
we're about to like get in the car. Sometimes we get in the car when it's like the three of us. It's not just me and my son. If it's my husband and my son and I going somewhere far away, but so he's not accustomed to it. So he's usually bored when he's inside a car. But
Yeah.
that is not the case in a bike. But you were asking about advocacy. With in Bike Walk Provo, I show up to the events. I volunteer, like I volunteered at the bike ballet. Um, and I also do the monthly social rides. So I wanted there to be an opportunity for families to be able to go on a gentle ride where they could just get to know their community and like share some food. I feel like one of my most favorite bicycle rides is when there's a group of us just, taking the streets and having a laugh and talking with each other. We grab some food and we end up at a park, and it's just so beautiful. Like you can't really, there's not really other ways you can do that.
Yeah.
And
I think there's
I
just so
mean,
much beauty in the simplicity of it too, right? It's just so simple. It's so nice.
yeah, I I really love that, and I want to find other ways to bring our community together in those ways, but I only have so much energy. I feel like I have a lot of good ideas, but just not a lot of energy to do it. But I feel like if someone asks me to do something involving Bike Walk Provo, I can usually say yes and help out. But yeah, I feel like my advocacy is mostly my presence on the roads, being able to talk to other people, and showing people safer routes and bringing people together. That's what I'm trying to do.
Love it.
Every time I find a friend on a bike, I ask them, what route did you take here?
Mhm.
And then we talk about it. And then I was like, did you know this route? And usually like I'll take them home or I'll ride them back. And it's like, did you know about this route? Like, like, let's give you some options. And
Yeah.
usually when I do that, they're like, I had no idea. And I feel really good. It's like, I knew something that could be helpful. Yay.
No, I think that's the such a cool thing too. Like you had so many people help you out, and then it's just kind of your way to give back and also get other people into it as well. Because yeah,
Exactly.
like you said, it's there's so many factors that go into it, and it can be overwhelming, right? That you're like, I don't know what route to take, I don't know what gear to have. But I love the idea of like the bike tour, just like going around the city and like looking at all the different routes and letting the families know and the people know, like, hey, this is a safe option, and or you could do this way or that way. But a lot of it kind of comes with trial and error, right? You just realize, okay, that wasn't the best street. I'll take this other one next time. I'll try this other route.
Yeah. Trial and error is big. I learned very early I couldn't always trust Google.
Yeah,
It's like, you want me to take two left turns at like the busiest intersections?
right.
I told you I'm on a bike, right?
Yeah,
um, and sometimes Google's right. I just never know. So
yeah,
it's good to like be able to to set aside time when I'm going somewhere new for room for error,
for sure. But
because
what a cool sense of
yeah,
accomplishment though, right? When you do figure out a good route and you're like, oh, that's the one. I like this one a lot.
yes. And then you'll know that you'll always see me on the same routes. I feel like I found a lot of pretty good ones. I think when we went on the Carterville ride together with Bike Orem, I was like, oh, MG, thank you. I needed another way up here.
Yeah. Yeah, did you know
And
about that route before?
I had heard about it, but I hadn't ridden it. Like I
Yeah.
had ridden part of Carterville Road, but not the canal. And I was like, I wish I knew about this sooner, because Thank goodness they're redoing some of the what is it, the Provo River Trail Parkway. Um, but while it was down for, closed for the work that they're doing on it, I'm like, you took my safe route.
Yeah.
Where do I go now? So knowing like, oh, you can take the College Connector Trail to the um, Carterville Road, and then go down the canal, and then you're basically here towards Murdoch Canal Trail. You like, it's just magic when you find these gems of routes.
Yes, absolutely. And that's my big thing too, is like, um, the small amount of routes that we do have right in this community and in this county, to just like highlighting those and telling, our legislatures and our lawmakers and our policymakers and, the decision makers, like, hey, people use these, right? Like, and people would use it more if there was other options on different sides of the city, different sides of the county, because it's like, such people in all sorts of different situations, they want to be able to bike. And if you give them multiple options, then they will. So that's one
Mhm.
big thing that we're been trying to push a lot too.
It's like, that term right sizing for roads.
Hmm.
So we do that with roads, but we also need to do that with bike trails and multi-use trails and mobility lanes. Like, we might not see many people on it, but it's one of those instances where it really is true. If you build it, they will come. Like, I'm really against the I-15 expansion because, like, if you build it, more cars will come.
Yeah.
it or when advocating for better trails and lanes, if you build it, more people will come. Or the BRTs, people say no one rides them. It's like, no, we have the numbers that show when this service was provided, more people used it. When it was more frequent, when it was more accessible, more people will use it. Um, this reminds me, so Springville City Council this year had approved their active transportation plan. Had approved to move forward with adopting an active transportation plan. I think I said it right that time.
Yeah, you got it.
And I made a comment. I sent them a letter too when they were deliberating about that, because when when our surrounding, whatever our surrounding communities are doing affects our community too. And I have friends in Springville. There's activities and lots of fun things we like to enjoy in Springville, but to get there on a bike with to in a if yeah, sorry, I'm mumbling a lot.
You're
To
good.
get there in a way that feels safe with children, um, it's a task. Like, the the only reason I have been able to go back and forth between Springville is because we had done a couple rides with Bike Walk Provo down to Springville. So I was able to know, like, oh, here's a route that Google Maps will not tell you and most people will not know
Yeah.
that you can take. And in my letter that I sent to City Council, was like, this is important to me because I want to feel connected to this community. The neighboring cities are part of my community. And if we can all move forward in creating better active transportation infrastructure, our cities will become more robust. Like, I spend my money where I go. If I can get to Springville more, I promise all the money I save not owning a car goes into all the activities I do with my son on our bike.
Yes.
Um, and also it's it's not fair. I feel like when you reach Springville, all of a sudden the public transportation and the bike trails stop. Like, there's a disconnect between the rest of Utah County and then between like the north side of Utah County and then the south side, because all of a sudden, like, there's the bike trail stop, the bus lines, not all, like, there's one line that kind of connects them, if
Hmm.
I'm remembering correctly. And it's like, we need to connect our communities more, and that will make it more robust and it'll benefit your community members. And I promise I'll visit more.
Yeah.
They did um they did vote in favor to adopt an active transportation plan, which includes a Spring Creek Trail, which I you probably know Logan Millsap. He's been a really big advocate and doing a lot of work there, trying to get like the Spring Creek Trail. The plan, like, it was put on the plan, and that's part of the plan, and they're going to do something about that, and that's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah,
because we really do need a trail leading down there, separated, more separated from cars than it is now.
no, absolutely. And yeah, I heard that as well, that Spring Creek Trail is going to come in. That's going to be an absolute game changer for people. Yeah, connecting, because there's a lot of people that work in one place or the other, right? And they would like to ride, um, but yeah, they just don't have that option. So it's beautiful. It's going to be great.
Yeah. My
Love it.
favorite like arts and crafts thrift store is down there. Some of our favorite, like we go to the parade, the Art Cities Day parade down
Yeah,
there. There's just so many things to enjoy from visiting our neighbors. Like I visit Orem all the time because I have a safe way to get there now.
yeah,
Um, so and I get to and my brother's family lives there too. Like being able to connect with my friends and my family on a bike, it's just like, oh wow, I really not a lot can stop me. It's just um it's more convenient and more accessible if there's good infrastructure.
for sure, for sure. So, talk to me a little bit about the red Madsen bike. How did they know about you to gift you one on Jared's birthday? I think that's so cool.
Uh well, I think well, uh I'd been up there a couple times for like tune-ups to ask questions,
Oh,
visit the
cool.
shop, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh and I don't know, they host like an annual Madsen ride. I had been to not this year's, but I went to theirs last year. I mean, I went this year too, but um I was one of the few who hadn't had upgraded to a battery, and I was like trying to keep up. I mean, I kept up. It's just it was quite a workout.
Yeah,
So I wasn't a stranger to them, and like I feel like online, I'm a big fan.
for
I
sure.
take opportunities to like talk about it, and I post pictures. And bike walk some so our communications director from Bike Walk Provo had gone up to Madsen to talk about some opportunities to try to collaborate or do some advocacy. And I don't know, I'm not, maybe I'm remembering this incorrectly, but my name may have come up during that. But so I'm not like 100% sure if it
Sure.
was because of Bike Walk Provo or because they just knew me. But they did tell me that, they knew that I would use it a lot.
Well,
And
yeah,
that
absolutely.
they heard my name from friends too. So it wasn't just like, oh, they knew me, but it was like people had been talking to them about me, which feels like I feel like my cheeks are turning red right now just thinking about like who's been talking about me and what are they saying? Well, apparently good things. Um and so I went up for a tune-up on the day of Jared's birthday. When we were talking about possible dates to come up to get a tune-up because they offered me a free tune-up. And I was like, oh, awesome. That's fantastic. I could use one. And we were talking about different dates to do it. And I was like, oh, because they posted it on social media, I knew like, oh, that's the day of Jared's birthday. I can bring a birthday card. That would be so great. Um, so I went up, I took the front runner. Oh yeah, I take my the front runner too with my bike. People don't think it's possible, but you can.
That's so cool. And yeah, the front runner is the train, right? The big train that goes all throughout
Yeah, the
Utah.
big
So
train.
you just throw your
Uh,
bike on the train. I love that. That's so cool.
So we took the train to Murray. Again, not the first time we've been up there. We've been there a couple times. And um I said, I have some errands to run while I'm here and I'll be back for my bike. And they're like, would you want to borrow one of our e-bikes? I was like, yes. I had brought my umbrella stroller and everything. I was just planning on taking the bus around Murray to run my errands. And they're like, you can borrow this e-Madsen. I'm like, fantastic. And when I was riding it through Murray, I was like, this is so fun. And I was texting my husband while I was at one of my errands. I was waiting for I forgot what I was waiting for. When I was texting him, I was like, this I'm so glad that I'm getting a tune-up, but I am going to miss this. This like having a battery is awesome. So to my delight and surprise, when I came back, like the whole crew was there, Lisa and Jared and I think it was Magda at the time. And just everyone was there, and but I was like, okay, what's going on? And they're like, your bike was too old to fix. We hope you like red. And I was like, what? At first, like because of the energy that I came into, I was like, are they giving me a bike? I'm like, no, no. And they are giving me a bike. And then it kind of went into like more denial, like, no. um, I it's on Instagram somewhere. There's a video of me crying.
Yeah, no,
But
I remember seeing that video. That was awesome. It was powerful.
that's on their page somewhere. And I I was like, wait, what was wrong with my bike? What do you mean it was too old? I took it on the front runner. With like the denial, like, no way, I don't deserve a new. Why are you giving me a new bike? What's wrong with mine? And he basically said that for his birthday, he wanted to give back to the community, and that so instead of receiving a birthday gift, he wanted to give one. And I was like, just thinking about it always gets me feeling a little teary because that was just so generous. And they're right. I did put a lot of use to it. I got that bike in April, and it is now what, November, and I've already put almost 1,900 miles on it.
What? Just this year?
Yes,
Oh my goodness, Carol, that's amazing.
because I take it everywhere.
Yeah,
We go to friends' houses. We go to Springfield. We go to Orem. We take the front runner, and we go to events in Salt Lake. We go to Murray. We go down the Jordan River Trail. Like, we go down the Provo River Trail all the time too. We visit friends, libraries, grocery stores. I don't drive. I take my bike everywhere. The only time I used to take the bus a lot, but since having the battery, I find myself rarely needing to take the bus either. I feel like the last time I took it was only because it was a rainy day and we were going swimming, and I was like, I don't want to be wet 3 times.
yeah,
um, but I mean, I bike even in the rain. It's just about having the right gear and the right attitude.
yes, absolutely.
Like, you have to expect. I imagine as it's, what's the word? It's making me hardier to be out in all kinds of weather, or when it's dark or when it's cold.
Yeah,
Like, it doesn't matter. We go out. I heard your podcast with Ali Johnson, and it's like, yeah, the only time is lightning. You don't want to be out with lightning.
yeah, yeah. You don't mess around with that. But yeah, I think the another term for that is resilient, right? You just build up this resilience and just this tolerance of like, yeah, this isn't a big deal. And it, I'm a firm believer when you subject yourself to things that might seem a little bit harder, like it boosts your overall ability to handle other stressors and other things that go on in your life. You're like, no, I rode my bike 20
Yeah,
miles today. Like, why can't I figure out how to manage, this certain situation at work or at home, or this certain emotion of depression or anxiety, whatever symptoms I'm experiencing. So, yeah,
yeah,
it builds that resilience and that ability to handle those other things in your life too.
yeah. It does help build like more emotional and spiritual resilience because, like I said, it really helped expand my feeling of community, and literally expanded my community. I know so many more people now that I've been biking. Um, and even when my physical resilience isn't the best, like I explained, like sometimes I'm really tired, or like my anxiety is getting the best of me, or I'm really depressed, or I'm having a bad bones day where my joints are inflamed and it hurts. And it's like, I have this tool that's not just a tool. We've learned that the bike is like the great equalizer in our society, like between socioeconomic statuses. It's like it levels the playing field. And with the battery, it helps it still be accessible when you're not doing great. And I have a lot of days where I am not doing great. And so to have that to help me, give me the extra boost I need to get out when maybe normally I wouldn't have, back when I didn't have a battery, it's like, I'm not up for that much work right now. I'm not trying to complain, but I'm trying to like share that it's been such a blessing to have a battery because um there are days where I feel that I used to feel like I can't do it, but I can't. But I don't have an excuse for it now
Yeah,
because I can always adjust to what it is that I need.
absolutely. I'm the same way because sometimes I'm like, I don't really want to ride today, but then I was like, I'll just bump up my, if I'm riding my e-bike, and I was like, I'll just bump up my pedal assist a little bit more, and it's not a big deal. And then as you ride, then you start, then it helps yourself like through that whatever it is you're going through, right? So it's just like,
Yeah, and then you feel so much better for it after you come back.
yep, yeah,
Unless you've been soaked to the bone because you like accidentally ran into a sudden rainstorm unprepared, which I've done. Those are the only times that I'm like really angry. Like, why did I not have my poncho in my bike?
right. But then
Normally my bike is a source of joy. But
exactly. But even with that, I have a really good therapist friend that does. We're colleagues, coworkers, and one thing that he always says is even the strongest storms, they don't last forever. And so even when you're stuck in a crazy hard rainstorm, it's like okay, yes, this is cold, this is hard, but like we made it through, right? Like it's again that
yeah,
gives you that
I
fortitude.
survived the trip to Verizon in the hail.
Exactly. So it's like it gives you that much more confidence and it just teaches you, yeah, I can get through these difficult storms or these difficult situations in life. It's a beautiful analogy for sure.
Yeah. And to speak to I this thought keeps popping into my head, but I couldn't find a good way to bring it up. But I feel that it's really one of the reasons the bike has also been so great for me is because it teaches me to take up space
Mm,
and to make my presence known, and which is kind of really hard for someone who suffered like struggles with anxiety, or maybe someone who doesn't have like the greatest self-esteem. But when you're on a bike, you physically have to intentionally take up space. You have to make your presence known. And practicing doing that on a bike, it's not like it's not a big leap to do it on a bike because you have to out of safety. But practicing doing that on the roads, I feel like it helps in my personal life too. It's like you gotta take up space. You gotta make your presence known. Um, and just knowing that I deserve to be here. I have the right to be here, just like anyone else, just like everyone else. And practicing that on the road helps me to practice that in my personal life. Um, do you feel like I don't know if it's the same for you, but I know for me, like I said, if someone who struggles with anxiety, someone um who's a woman and like person of color, just like that that is very important lesson to learn, to be able to accept, not only accept that, but celebrate that. Being able to be in a space, take up space, let it be known that you deserve to be here, and so does everyone else. And it's very hard because we live in a culture right now where it's like, ride on the side. Why aren't you riding on the sidewalks? Why not just drive a car? And it's like, not everyone can.
yeah.
Just my mode of transportation does not make me less deserving of safety or belonging than yours.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you put it beautifully there. I think that's such a deeper concept that I personally don't know how that is, right? Because I don't I'm not a woman, I'm not a person of color, I'm a white male, right? And so but it's been interesting my situation as far as just like I've always been the person that I don't want to take up space, right? That I want to hide and then I've had to really embrace like no, like I have to wear bright colors. I have to wear lights. I have to like for safety and everything. So that's my aspect of it is just for the safety aspect. But I've never really thought about that. From your angle. That's a beautiful concept there, though, Carol. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it was when you mentioned lights and being seen for safety. That's also important. It eases my anxiety when I make sure that I'm very well seen, very well lit. But also with my Madsen, the new Madsen, the bright red, one of my first thoughts was, oh no, everyone's gonna be looking at me. But that's funny because what have I been doing? Dressing up my bike so people look at me. But I saw this bike and I was like, it's so flashy and bright and it's so beautiful. Like people are going to be looking at me. And I came from like, again, like that place of anxiety and like self-esteem, low self-esteem. But it's like, no, this is great. This is such a good thing.
Yeah.
Be bright, be seen, like be beautiful. And so there was like a little like mental leap I had to do because I loved my powder blue bike because it felt like, oh, I could, like, it's pretty, but I can still kind of blend it. It's not too loud, I don't feel like I have to take up so much space, but it's like the red, it just really helps me to be like, I'm here and there's nothing, nothing I can do to dim it or hide it, but I am here.
Yes.
And, which is great. Because yeah, for safety and like I said, this mental exercise of like learning to take up space, it's great for both of those things. But I'm not saying there's no bad things about cycling, um, but the I'm just talking about taking up space and experiences on bikes. There was an incident last year on my blue bike where someone shot pellets at me
Yeah,
from their moving vehicle while I was on my bike with my son. And that shook me so bad.
I
And
bet.
I didn't know why it happened. And that's one of the big things when people experience things that shake them, like why did it happen to me, like, or um will it happen again, um did I deserve that? But it's just kind of like, um even though it shook me so bad, it reminded me how important it was that I stay on the road and that I don't shrink because of things that happen to me, because other people need to feel that safety and need people to advocate them just by their presence being on the road. Like, I couldn't let this bad incident stop me from writing. It was a while before I could take that road without thinking about that incident, but I think just knowing that I wanted to still live in a way that brought me joy and to still be an advocate just by being out on the road really helped. But yeah, I still wonder like why they did that. Were they like stupid teens, or was it because like, someone had a thing about against bicyclists, or was it something about me? And it was scarier because like my son was in the back and I was like, what if they had got him in the eye?
Right. Yeah, no,
Um,
situation like that. So I can definitely be scary, absolutely. And that you hear a lot of stories of, not a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but there are similar stories and things like that happen to people. So I'm curious, how did you kind of work through that like mentally to be able to be like, all right, I'm still going to keep riding, because I'm sure you didn't want to ride for, a few days after that, right?
um, I think I did like take a break for a couple days. I don't really remember too well what I did after, but I did like call the police. I was like a mess. Again, it's like, oh no. uh really it like really triggered my anxiety because like I feel like I have it mostly under control when it comes to biking, but then when that happened I was like, oh no, nothing is safe. Biking is no longer sacred.
Yeah.
um but I see a therapist pretty regularly, and talking to her about it, and we did a little bit of EMDR, which really helped.
Heck yeah.
and
Awesome.
and just again like the reminders that I always tell people, just like um like road violence happens all the time, unfortunately, and people do things out of spite, unfortunately, all the time, and we still have to live our lives.
Yeah.
We still have to, we can't let those things stop us from doing the things that bring us joy, because then that defeats us in a second way.
Hmm.
It's not just the first violation or defeat, then it's the second one of like killing your joy. Like, I just avoided that road for a while. And then eventually I would still take it sometimes and remind myself that it happened and it was in the past, and reminding myself that I don't have to take that road if I don't want to. But I feel like, again, with the therapy and the reminding, those reminders of like what it is that I want to do with my life that bring me joy, even though there's risk involved. And the things that I've told people, like the benefits and, the advocacy of just like being out there, um, really help.
Awesome.
So, but
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually what I was going to touch on as well, that, I'm a therapist by trade, right? And so like every day I'm talking with people about, different traumas and stuff that they've gone through, and, to be able to process it, right? To be able to talk about it, to identify what the facts were, what our feelings are about it, and just how to kind of, not necessarily move past it, but like how to live with it and how to like lessen its sting or lessen its impact in our life, and just kind of be able to live with it. And that's so again, yeah, major plug for therapy on that. Like it's such a benefit for people to just discuss that and work through it. And a big reason why I'm doing this as well, because I feel like the bike is a major tool for that as well. Like it just helps your overall wellness, your brain, your mental state, your emotional state, and you're literally riding past it, right? You're literally going through it, and it just helps your brain again process that emotion, physically and also mentally, so you can be to a place of where you're good and where you're stable and where you can just kind of manage those thoughts and those emotions as well. So it's great.
yeah, yeah, therapy is awesome. I recommend it to all my friends. That's probably the next thing that I would buy everyone. Like, that meme, if you were a millionaire, you wouldn't tell anyone, but there'd be signs. My signs would be all of my friends' families would have cargo bikes and everyone would have as much therapy as they wanted.
Man, and in an ideal society, right? That's what we're shooting for. I'm all about that as well. Like
Like
that's
I wouldn't tell anyone.
yeah, heck yeah. I love it, Carol. That's amazing. That's great. Well, Carol, thanks again for sharing your experiences, sharing your stories. Every time I see you, I love the bike. I love talking with you. You're always a bright spot, and yes, there are a lot of people that talk about you, that say just amazing, wonderful things. Like I know that here up in Bike Orem, a lot of people are have great things to say about you, and everyone that I've met that has met you, you're definitely a bright spot to everybody. So thank you for being you. Thank you for spreading that joy.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
yeah, you're amazing.
That that means a lot because I feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I always feel like I'm not doing enough and I want to do more. But right now where I'm at, it seems like it's plenty and I'm I'm glad that it is. Um like my advocacy is just being here.
No, and that's you. Like you said, you're taking up that space, and people appreciate it, and they gravitate towards it. So you're keeping
It gives them permission to take space.
absolutely. It's great. I love it.
Thank you for talking with me. I was very excited to
Yes,
talk with you.
for sure. All right. Well, thanks, Carol. We'll chat again soon. Okay.
Okay. Take care. Enjoy this rainy day.
Yes. Yes. You too. Bye. So one of the things that Carol talked about in her therapy is doing what's called EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So within this form of therapy, a therapist will literally have your eyes go back and forth or use some different techniques to stimulate some bilateral stimulation within your body. And as you work through and process the different memories, you're able to think of these past traumatic events, these traumatic memories, and not have the same emotion that's tied to them as was before. So you can recognize that they're from the past and that they're memories, but they don't hold the same weight or charge or impact in your life. So you're not being re-triggered every time you think about it. So EMDR, it's a really fascinating, really cool tool that a lot of therapists will use. So if you're interested in it, and if you're having some traumatic memories that bring up a lot of emotion for you, reach out to a therapist and find somebody that could possibly work through this with you, and they'll see if you might be a good fit for this form of treatment. It's not for everybody, it's not going to work for everybody, but for some people, it's an amazing tool that can really help them get back to a stable, functioning part in their life. So really cool that Carol shared about that and was open about it. So thanks again, guys, for listening. Appreciate the support. Again, whenever you're going through a difficult time, hard situations in your life, jump on that bike and just ride this out.